Okay, we're about to pressure test this other 1300 motor, Gp1300r. What I do to block off is 3 PVCs with regular hose clamps. I don't use the OEM ones. You got to make sure they're tight so these don't pop out. Caps on the end. This cap, you screw a fitting on the end for a 1/4 inch fuel line. Put some sealant over there. It's leaked before, so. And then in the back, the exhaust, there's just a steel plate, some bolts, and that rubber gasket. And now, it's a little pop-off. I use a pop-off gauge. That's what you're looking at right now. And then I pump air in with my compressor. Slowly, of course. Up until like 6 or 7. Even 5 is really good, but as you can see, it's holding. It's just a pop-off gauge with an on and off valve, and I just pump the air in. But I've done enough of these to know that this motor is going to be good. Hasn't dropped, it's still at 6 psi. Okay, I'm getting ready to drop the motor in. I'm gonna go get a hand from somebody. As you can see, I just have all the stuff leaned over the side. Battery box and everything just makes it a little easier to fit everything in. Find a good spot for the camera so you guys can get a good view of how I do this. And alright, so what happens, I'm going to turn this end towards me, keep the balance. What do I got? I got this, I got this. Let me think of where I'm going to grab it from. I'm going to grab it from here and here. Okay. Alright, you let it go. And it's in. That's how I get my motors in. No motor lift, nothing. Dropped in. My brother gave me a hand. That's how I do it. It's in. I gotta take this out, shim the motor out, and that's dropping it in. Average Joe Motorsports. Like, comment, and subscribe. Okay, got the motor dropped in. Now we're aligning it. There's 2 ways I like to do it. You take the rubber damper out. That's how you always align it. You check, everything's even all the way around. You got to shim. take the shims, which on Yamaha, you know, the shims look like this on the Yamaha. Right now I have, you know, one under each one at different thicknesses because I use different mounts, so the shims are different in the front and the back. So now what I have to do is push the motor back, put the damper in, push the motor forward, and what I like to do is I put the bolts in. I don't tighten them down all the way, and then I hook it up so I can crank it, and then I crank it a few times while the bolts are still loose, and that helps align the motor too. So as you can see, there's a shim under both. You want all those to be the same height, no step. So whatever you got to do. I bought the shim kit. It comes with 4 different widths, and I like the way mine looks now. So what I'm going to do is pull the motor back, get the damper in, and line everything back up. Okay, pulled the motor back, hopefully enough. Put the damper back inside. Slide the motor back forward, and now I did take the shims out when I pulled the motor because sometimes they come falling out. Okay, so I'm not going to do the crank the motor method because I have a little issue. The little starter attach wire was corroded and snapped off, so I had to cut it back some. But I'm going to do it by eye, which I got it aligned pretty good. I actually put the airbox back, well, this part of the airbox back on. What I'm going to do now is Loctite 572. Well, this tube is dirty, but that's what it looks like, which is a thread sealant. So they're all snugged. Let's see, I got the torque wrench. We'll see. It's already set to 12 foot-pounds. And we're probably going to have to get some kind of extensions going. Probably, I know. Really, really long one, which kind of sucks in a way, but got no choice. tighten down. I like it. I make it so the big shim fits equally in all of them all the way around. The alignment is good. Now I'm gonna have to run to the store and get a connection for this. But as you guys can see, that's the alignment. It's pretty uniform all the way around. Welcome back, YouTube. So we ran into a little issue, but I put a new connection on that was broken. I didn't want to put the exhaust on because it's got to go on the starter. If I start putting the exhaust and stuff on, it makes it harder to reach underneath there to put it on the starter. So I just put a new fitting on there and shrink wrapped it. And about to hook up the wiring, reroute everything, throw the exhaust piece on. Do a little cleaning. I already degreased everything earlier. So, stay tuned. And then we'll go through videos. We got to break in the Polaris. We're going to have to break in this ski. And we're going to have to break in my other 1300 and a 1200. All got to be broken in or sold. I like to break them in before I sell them. Alright, so the wire's all repaired. Ready to be hooked up to the starter. You gotta go up behind there. And starter. Don't want to drop the bolt, which happens to me quite often. Okay. Got it slightly threaded on there. Don't want to over tighten it. I've had the bolt snap off the starter before. That does happen. You don't want to over tighten it. Should really torque it down to the spec in the book, but I've done it so many times I can kind of feel it. And you put the rubber boot up and over, so this helps it from prevents it from getting super rusty. All right. And before I mount all these wires up, I want to have as much room as I can to drop the exhaust in. So I won't do that quite yet. Alright. Gotta put this bulky air box back on, the OEM. These clip into the stator cover, has two rubber grommets. And there's a bolt goes through here. And then this clamps back on the main air box. So, and I will show you once I put it in. So I split it in two. As you can see, kind of, I got the first piece in. And the second piece goes in like this. I'm not going to tighten anything until I get the second piece in. I always worried about the how to route the hoses and wires. And this could eventually, you know. Okay. Took a few minutes, but back in there, if you ever did a 1300 on the stator cover, there's these grommets that those two little hooks go in. The stock airbox is a pain in the ass, but I just got to tighten the clamps. Tighten the clamp there and the main clamp, and then I can start worrying about the exhaust. I'll take a video, show you how I get the exhaust in. Okay, so the exhaust gasket's on, the pins are in. I already put the Loctite, calls for 271 on all the bolts. I'm pretty sure it is 28 foot-pounds. I like to do it. See this big bulky thing? I kind of take it and swing it in like that. But you also definitely have to have some of the bolts in. Else you'll never get them in. At least the two backs. I think maybe even it's really long. So those are in. Let's see. I take it. That's not good. Let's see. Swing. Keep swinging. Keep swinging. Alright, that's pretty much it. Swing. Okay. Now that I got it that far, that's the way it goes. Just swing it in. Side, it's pretty much in place. So, torque down, exhaust is on, everything's tightened down. Now I'll show you. There's actually two hoses. I don't know if you can see in there. That little hose got to connect to the exhaust. And then there's one, this one in it there, that connects right to the top here. The dump. So I'm going to work on those two. Then the other piece of the exhaust. Alright. Everything's hooked up. Started zip tying the wires in place. Gotta make sure all the hoses are hooked up. The hidden one I was telling you about back there, not really hidden, but in there. That one up there at the top. This thing you want to make sure, I always make sure that the clamps go on first. I have to get the clamp for this, for the other part of the exhaust. I always put the clamp, I slide it up here. I slide this black thing as far up there as I can. Yeah, slide that up as far as I can, so when I swing this exhaust in, I don't want to zip tie too much of the wires because I'll probably have to move it. I'll take out this box and it makes it a little easier to swing that last piece of the exhaust in. We got the last part of the exhaust going on. Drop it in. Make sure all the wiring is where you want it. This is always a little bit of a bitch in my eyes. Okay, kind of in the water box. It's in there. Boom. Almost pretty much in. This. Why is this? This is all out of the way. Alright. Kind of like what I see here.
God, you're foda, man.
Everything's in place. The water box. I don't know if I'm blocking your view, but we got the water box. We got to make sure that's pushed in. I got to get that clamp in place. I'm going to be done for the day after that. Average Joe Motorsports. The Gp1300r. This is the second one. Just putting the finishing touches. this exhaust cover on, making sure all the all the clamps are all tightened down. I gotta zip tie those wires up. Not gonna start it, but I will hook a battery up. Make sure it cranks over. Make sure it has a good ground, because sometimes I've had an experience where I put a whole motor together. For some reason, it wasn't getting good ground, and we were chasing that issue. But now I like to put the battery in and crank it, even if I'm not going to start it. So I know in a month when I go to break them in exactly what the problem is. So I don't think I did it in the video. We put these two exhaust mounts on. This exhaust cover on. These aren't actually the right bolts. They have covers for them. But that'll do. I get ready to put this one up for sale. Let me hook the battery up. After we test that, I want to straighten out all these wires. And then this one will be done until break-in, unless I sell it before that. Okay, I got the battery temporary spot, and you just want to see if it's going to crank over. Obviously it does. You hear the bilge working. The gauge is working. I will unhook the battery. That's the bilge pump. It'll turn off in a minute. But gauge working. The rebuild was at 166 hours. And tighten down the box. And this ski is ready to go. Hope you guys enjoyed the videos. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Average Joe Motorsports.